Welcome to the training on safe transportation of people who use wheelchairs. This training was created by DDS in partnership with the Center for Developmental Disabilities Evaluation and Research. I'm Tom Mercier, the Director of Assistive Technology Services for DDS, and I'll be your presenter today. Since August 2015, we've had multiple incidents with serious injuries during the course of transitioning people in wheelchairs from home or day services into vehicles. These have tragically resulted in 3 fatalities. The goal of today's training is to raise awareness about the risks involved in transitioning people in wheelchairs and to share helpful information about proper procedures. We want to keep everyone safe. Imagine how terrifying this must have been for the individual. His caregiver let go of his wheelchair for one moment. Unfortunately, they were at the top of the hill. Transitioning on or off a van or car can be risky. There are lots of steps to ensure that everyone is safe. For example, people can fall from vehicle lifts if a wheelchair brakes are not used or power chairs is not off and in gear. People can also fall from lifts if not secured properly. People can roll out of an open vehicle door. People can roll down hills while waiting to transport. People can fall on their way to and from the vehicle. People can be injured in a car accident if wheelchairs are not tied down properly. How can you prevent accidents? Take your time, pay attention, understand the risks, regularly check wheelchair parts, and practice operating the lift, tying down the wheelchair, loading and unloading, applying wheelchair brakes, and what to do after a fall. Today's training will introduce DDS recommended guidelines for safe wheelchair transportation, discuss safe loading and unloading procedures, show how to operate a vehicle lift, show how to properly tie down a wheelchair, and describe what to do if someone falls. Provider agencies are encouraged to develop their own protocols for safe wheelchair transportation. Here are some recommendations for good practice guidelines that providers may want to incorporate into their own protocol. The safe transportation of all individuals who we support happens every day. But even if we succeed 99% of the time in providing safe transportation, we have not really succeeded at all. This is especially crucial in transporting people who use wheelchairs, who are especially vulnerable in accidents. With a bit of planning and preparation, we can make this process much safer. Here are some guidelines. Number 1, safe vehicles. Providers are encouraged to schedule regular inspections of vehicles used for transport. For example, check all the tie-downs and shoulder harnesses and lift mechanisms and make sure they're all in good working order. Number 2, safe wheelchairs. All wheelchairs should be in good repair. For example, brakes should not be too worn. The wheelchair frame should be intact with no missing hardware. Number 3, safe procedures. Staff who are involved in transportation should all be trained in the correct procedures for transporting people who use wheelchairs. This includes properly loading and unloading passengers into the vehicle. Many of these steps will be covered today. Number 4, safe planning. Have a plan for how many staff will be needed for staff transportation for each outing and what they are expected to do. For example, it's a good idea to plan the logistics ahead of time and think about who will load first, etc. We will talk more about this today. Number 5, emergency safety procedures. Think ahead of time about what staff should do in an emergency. We'll talk about this more in today's training. There are a number of things to think about when loading and unloading passengers from vehicles. The first thing to consider is where people wait. Transportation can be a busy time. Your job is to keep the individual as safe as possible before they get into the vehicle. It is generally safer and more comfortable for individuals to wait indoors. It may seem efficient to have people wait next to the vehicle or next to a building, but the risk of injury while staff focus their attention on the person being transferred, is considerable. People should not be left in unsafe conditions, including inclines. Even small inclines can be risky. It may seem safe, but always consider the risks. Brakes can fail. Someone may unlock their own brakes. Staff may forget to lock the brakes. It may seem natural to leave someone parked sideways on an incline, but that is not a safe choice. People can tip over, or people can sail down a hill. And remember, always lock the brakes between every transition step. Staff should be aware of the individual's limitation with power. Some people may be great at driving around inside their home, but need extra support outside. Some people may do great outside as long as the conditions are nice. However, they may need extra support in winter conditions. Help the person drive on sidewalks if necessary to avoid any part of the wheel going over a curb. This may cause a fall. Avoid hills, ditches, and uneven terrain. Be mindful of traffic. Ensure that there is plenty of room to operate the lift and safely maneuver the wheelchairs on and off the lift. If the vehicle is a rear-loading vehicle, be certain to allow a lot of room at the rear of the vehicle. Safe loading. Deploy the lift and lower it until it is level to the ground. Assist the person to the vehicle. Back the person onto the lift platform, side-loading vehicles, or roll the person forward onto the lift, rear-loading vehicles. Lock the brakes or power off the wheelchair and place it in gear. Use a lift platform safety strap. Safety gate should be up. Make certain that the safety gate on the lift platform engages securely to ensure that the wheelchair cannot roll off the lift. And the arrow on the picture indicates where the safety strap is to be positioned. Now we're going to watch a short video clip demonstrating the proper way to operate the lift and load someone into the van.
Now we're going to use the lift to help Michelle get onto the van. The first thing we need to do is to unlock the brakes, and the safest way is to always back the individual onto the van. This van has a strap across the lip, so we need to unbuckle that first. We're going to lock the brakes. Take this strap and put it back into this fastener here. Otherwise, on these newer vans, the lift won't go up. So remember that another reason not to go like this with the individual back on the lift is because you cannot ride up on the lift with it. You need to be on the ground so you can always watch what's going on as they're rising down off the lift. So then the next step, Michelle, we're gonna go up on the van now. The next step is to press the up button, lower right.
Where do staff stand while operating the lift? Stand next to the lift and activate the lift mechanism. Always consider supervision needs. Do not load alone if you have more than one person to supervise. Transportation companies. Many people use transportation companies to ride to and from day programs. Program staff should bring the person to and from the transportation provider and stay close by in case support is needed. The transportation provider has the responsibility to operate their equipment and to ensure that the person is secured safely. Keeping the person safe is everyone's responsibility. Wheelchair tie-downs. Now we're going to talk about tie-downs. How to tie down. Secure the runners to the floor. Attach the tie-down to the transfer-ready hook in the front and rear of the wheelchair. Restrain the occupant using vehicle shoulder belts. Remove loose accessories from the wheelchair. Most of the wheelchairs you will probably see have transport hooks. There is a video that shows how to tie down chairs with the transport hooks. If you're using an older wheelchair without transport hooks, there's an optional video to watch at the end of this training that demonstrates that procedure.
Okay, now that Michelle's in the van, we're going to go ahead and secure the wheelchair down with the tie-downs. This is the Q-Strength system of tie-downs that we're going to demonstrate today. We have, they're attached to these runners in the van, and the way to get them secured into the floor is to lift up right there, to lift up this little latch here, and to line it up with some of these holes here. Make sure there's no debris. Okay. You put them in and then you slide it until it locks. Always make sure that it's in there good. Okay, these can swivel where you need them. We're going to bring the wheelchair back into the position where it needs to be, to the rear tie-downs. Now the rear tie-downs, they need to be in the middle of the chair, in the middle of the back, so that's why I'm putting the chair here. So we're going to lock the chair. How you doing, Michelle?
Good.
All right. When you're placing the front straps, you need to make sure that they're on the outside of the wheelchair because the person's feet are in the way. You don't want to cross the person's feet with the straps. We're going to fasten the tie-downs to the wheelchair. With these tie-downs, there's a red latch here. You just push it down, and then you bring up the tie-down and the hook and hook it onto the transport-ready hook right here. And you want to make sure that's tight. And over here, the same thing. Push down the red and attach it to the transport-ready hook. Okay, on your back straps, you bring it up and hook it on this transport-ready hook.
After the wheelchair is properly tied down, the next step is to secure the shoulder straps. Secure the straps to the floor runner. Bring long strap around the other side. Bring the short strap up and under the person. And snap the belt together. Here is a short video which demonstrates the best way to secure the shoulder strap.
To harness people into their wheelchair, you can't assume that because this wheelchair itself has a seat belt that's going to keep the person protected, because it usually doesn't. In a collision, they pop out of their wheelchair very easily. So we have wheelchairs, safety straps in the van for the individual to keep them secure in their wheelchair while they're transporting. So we secure the individuals in their wheelchair just like you're secured into your car with the safety harness. There's two pieces to this. There's a piece attached to the side of the van that goes across the individual's shoulder. Then there's the picture yourself in your car, there's a buckle on the right side of you where the shoulder strap buckles into. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing this, and it's less confusing that way. The way we attach these straps is to the floor. There's a mechanism on the wheelchair straps. Right here, there's a protrusion right here, and these straps go on there and lock on like that. You want to put your short strap opposite the long strap on the van. So you put that on this side. Then the long shoulder strap just goes on the other floor strap right there. Okay. Now when these straps are put on the individual, what you want to remember is they're to protect the individual and keep them in their wheelchair. So they're not going to be going around the wheelchair. They're not trying to keep, you already got straps for the wheelchair. You're not going to be trying to keep the wheelchair safe. You're trying to keep the individual safe, so the straps have to go around the individual and not the wheelchair. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to bring the strap around the individual, so you bring it between inside the arm. If you remember, we showed the anatomy of the wheelchair. We don't want to have straps going over pieces that can fall off in some sort of a collision. The other strap does the same thing. You bring it in between the person's the person in the arm. And now we click the belt. Now Michelle is secure in the vehicle. We're going to be able to just go out and put the lift up.
Vehicle straps. Use both pelvic and shoulder belts in the vehicle to restrain the passenger. Do not rely on the wheelchair lap belt. The wheelchair lap belt is not designed for transportation safety. Now we'll talk about unloading passengers. Safe unloading. Bring the lift up. Detach the shoulder straps and the wheelchair tie-downs. Ensure the safety gate on the end of the lift platform is engaged. Roll wheelchair onto the lift. Ensure brakes are on or chair is powered off and in gear. Use the lift platform safety strap and lower the lift. Lastly, we'll talk about best ways to plan for safe transportation. Plan for safe transportation. How many staff are needed and who's responsible for what? The safe procedures for loading and unloading passengers can be time-consuming and it requires the full attention of the staff. Have a plan for how many staff will be needed for safe transportation for each outing and what they are expected to do, i.e. operating the lift, supervising other passengers. This will enable staff to focus their attention on supporting the individuals instead of trying to decide which staff will do which step of the process. Plan logistics ahead of time. A vehicle protocol may be needed for each house. Consider the best order for loading and unloading passengers. This will depend on individual support needs and other factors. For example, who's being picked up or dropped off first. Despite all our best efforts to ensure safety, accidents can and will happen. In the event of an accident, staff may become upset, anxious, and may not think clearly. It is important to know how to proceed if a fall should occur. What do we mean by a wheelchair fall? A wheelchair fall is when the chair tips over sideways, backwards, or forwards, regardless if the person falls out of the chair or not. Why are these falls significant? A wheelchair fall is not your typical fall where someone goes down and immediately gets up again. The chair is likely in motion at the time of the fall. This adds considerable momentum to the event and is potentially more serious. People in wheelchairs may be vulnerable to head or spinal cord injuries. Every wheelchair fall should be treated as a potentially serious event. What to do after a fall? Assume the fall is a serious event. Always err on the side of caution. Never assume the person is okay just because there are no visible injuries. Do not move the person unless they are in an unsafe area. If the person falls in an unsafe area, like the middle of traffic, they can be moved to safety. Otherwise, the person should not be moved or sat back up. This may go against your human instinct. You may want to sit the person back up, but it is safer to call 911 and have them evaluated. The risk for head and spinal injury is significant. Stay with the person and call 911. The person should be evaluated by a medical doctor for possible head and spinal injuries. After calling 911, providers may have other protocols for staff to follow, calling a supervisor or others at their agency for notification and backup. Staff may wish to practice fall drills. Everyone should practice what to do in case of an emergency. Other things to think about regarding safe transportation. Despite your best efforts, equipment will occasionally need repair. The best thing to do, if you think a wheelchair is unsafe, is to report it to your direct supervisor. Your supervisor will make the determination on whether or not it's safe to transport the person. Your supervisor may also contact the vendor or request an evaluation from an OT or a PT. Agencies may wish to develop a vehicle inspection schedule to ensure all equipment is operating properly. If the vehicle lift is broken, report it to your supervisor. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go. Here are a number of resources that you might find helpful. Thank you for your attention. Please contact Paula Potvin, Director of Risk Management of the Massachusetts DDS, with any questions or comments.